Okay. Now we're all warmed up.
You're like, I didn't need to know any of this about you.
I want to say ho 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 bitches, but like...
I was thinking that before. I was going to be like, ho 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 bitches, welcome to Culture Pops Open.
Ho 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 benches.
I feel like I've said ho 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 bitches enough times in the text to you.
Yeah, it makes me laugh. I never expect that. Oh. I'm going to attempt to not fall asleep if I somehow disappear during the recording.
Okay, so do you want me to do the intro for this?
Maybe. Sure.
Am I allowed to say ho ho ho?
I should sing. Disney Plus exists now. Oh, you have to do the intro.
Oh, okay. So, ho 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 bitches, and welcome to the Christmas-themed episode of Culture Popped Open. Today we're going to be popping open one of the new Disney Plus movies, Noelle, and then talking about some of our favorite mistletoe faves and whatnot.
That makes them sound romantic. Mine are all like children's cartoons.
Look, I was trying to be jolly. Let me have my...
How do you feel about Christmas?
So here's the thing about Christmas. I really like the idea of Christmas, and I hype myself up by watching all of these movies and TV shows and, like, doing all these craft stuff and making, like, 5 runs to the post office to mail gifts, and then Christmas actually gets here, and my family ruins it every year. So that's how I feel about Christmas.
I feel like that's what it usually is.
Someone cries in my family every year on Christmas.
But not from happiness.
Some years it has been me, and I wouldn't leave my room.
I've only had, like, one properly family-ruined Christmas that involved most of my family going to my grandpa's grave to, like, decompress. Like, that's where we went. My mom gets really into Christmas, but my mom is basically you, so... I refuse to get Disney Plus because I don't really need it, and also I'm annoyed at Disney, which is a whole other episode. And I have, like, most of my favorites on DVD anyway. I also have, like, I don't know. If I was ever going to watch something, it would be, like, over and over anyway. It would just be, like, for fun, just to be like, I watched this weird, like, 1960s live-action thing when I was a kid. Let me watch it again. But instead, you have Disney Plus, and we can just Skype each other.
Disney Plus is trying so hard to look like Netflix, but without any of the actual functionality of Netflix.
There's only like 3 categories or something. It's like all scripted or for kids, which is weird. Movies A to Z, most popular, and then like all of them.
Well, yeah, it's on the whole
animated and
original, so that's their original content. Recommended for you. So right now, thinks I should watch a New Hope episode 4 of Star Wars, which isn't happening.
The original Star Wars.
Dumbo, which I've already seen twice. The new one. Lizzie McGuire, which I have no interest in watching. Forky What's the Friend, which is just an attack.
Forky, but we watched one of them. That's why. We watched the Forky Explains Money. Yeah. Neither of us have seen Toy Story 4, but we had to see how Disney tried to explain money to children. It was not as spicy as we wanted.
They recommend Free Solo and Tangled, which is pretty spot on.
They really want you to watch Star Wars and, like, Disney 2000 shows, which I never watched, unlike a lot of people my age, because I had a younger brother at that point, and he controlled the TV. And also, I didn't want to watch, like, the weird, I don't know. It's like child sitcoms.
The recommended for you category is not great compared to Netflix, but I've also watched more on Netflix.
And there's also less to choose from.
Yeah. Trending, Out of the Vault, which doesn't exist anymore. Inspired by True Stories. Ultra HD and HDR, which I don't care about. New channel favorites. Musicals. Throwbacks.
The Sound of Music is on there now, which is weird to me, because The Sound of Music, when compared to, like, everything else, especially Mary Poppins, is very not Disney.
There's also Beasts and Monsters.
I don't like that.
feel-good sports movies, Mickey Mouse throughout the years, documentaries, shorts, best friends, and okay, if someone from Disney Plus is listening to this podcast, I don't understand why WALL-E is listed as a best friends movie when clearly it is one of the sweetest romances that Disney has ever made.
It's very obviously a love story. Like, I don't understand. They're
They're robots, and they hold hands, and that's as far as it goes, but it is still a love story.
And they're even, boy-girl.
Extinguisher scene in space, which is one of the most erotic things I've ever seen in a movie. So I don't understand.
The fire extinguisher.
That was not a very well-veiled metaphor. I mean, I would argue that Eve is the gender-neutral feminine robot.
Disney's not that smart. Wait, are you saying Eve is Janet?
Basically. Okay, fun mysteries, action-adventure, and an animals in nature, which makes sense because they own National Geographic.
Also, they own the entire Simpsons.
Searching for movies is weird. They have action-adventure, animation, comedy, documentary, drama, kids, shorts, and an Ultra HD and HDR.
It's not helpful because they should put them in categories like Disney princess movies. And also, apparently, if you watch TV shows, they don't mark the episodes as watched, or at least they didn't when it first came out.
They also didn't have a continue watching or, a suggestion for, the next one to watch, and that has since been fixed because it almost started playing the Santa Claus after I'd finished Noelle today, and I was like, nope.
Wrong Santa movie. Different gender politics, no.
Not today, Disney Plus. I'm interested to see Disney Plus evolve as a platform and see what they're going to do with original content.
Yes, I just feel weird that kids might grow up on exclusively Disney-owned properties. It's great that streaming allows us to rediscover things, but if we rediscover them in kind of a vacuum, or only just watch the old stuff, then we're not moving storytelling in the medium further.
I will say, though, as a kid, even though streaming didn't exist in, 1999, early 2000s when I was a kid, I still kind of lived in a media vacuum because I literally had the Disney VHSs that used to be on the shelf over there. And because my family is such a Disney-heavy family, we tended to own most of the Disney stuff. And then we had, I think there was a period where I didn't have Cartoon Network. So, that limited my choices of what kids' media I was going to watch. So that's why I ended up becoming a Nickelodeon kid. Because there was only intermittent times where I could watch Cartoon Network, even though I loved Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Laboratory.
I don't even know what I watched as a kid. I watched a lot of Spy Kids. PBS. So
I don't think it's that different.
No, it's not. That's true. Because a lot of older Disney movies are, a lot of people our age grew up with them and they came out before we were born.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, I don't know, but it makes it easier.
Well, that's true. There were classic Disney movies I didn't see until I was older because we didn't have them on VHS or DVD as a kid. Aladdin I didn't see until later, Tarzan I didn't see until later.
Aladdin was one of the ones I did see. So, Noelle, the only Disney Plus original I was interested in for very obvious reasons. It stars Anna Kendrick and Bill Hader, and it's kind of, we have an episode about Barry planned, but he often talks about how he had lots of anxiety, especially with SNL. He had panic attacks on air, and just generally, even though he's good, just really didn't want to do it. Just physically and mentally, which is the basis of the emotional aspect of Barry, which is an HBO show that's, it's not, gratuitous exactly, but it's not for children. But there are weird similarities to this movie, which we'll discuss in a minute, because in this movie he plays a basically anxious Santa, who just doesn't want to be Santa. And he's got perky Anna Kendrick as his sister, which, yay, sibling relationships. And then Billy Eichner's character, the other thing I was super interested in when I read the description was that Billy Eichner's character is kind of trying to transform Santa's Workshop into Amazon. And I was like, okay, Disney, giant corporation, taking out Amazon, another giant corporation, must watch. And then it just got weirder.
So let's explain the premise of Noelle for those of you who haven't watched it or don't have access to Disney Plus. So this movie is about Nick and Noelle, who are the two children of the current Santa. And as law in the land goes, Nick from a very young age, is training to be the next Santa. So when they are in their 20s, their father dies, and then Nick has to take over as the Santa. But he is very bad at it and is having a lot of anxiety leading up to Christmas. So Noelle suggests that he take some time off, and then Nick disappears, and everyone blames Noelle, and she kind of goes on a hunt to find her brother and save Christmas.
Yes, and
of their handy head elf, Polly.
Also a very weird reindeer baby that kind of acts like a goat, and maybe that's just how baby reindeers are. I don't know.
But it was very goat-like, and it was very
I thought it was cute. You were kind of disturbed.
I did not like Snow Cone or Snowball or whatever his name was.
Yeah, so, like, they kind of solve the whole, how is Santa immortal issue by, he's kind of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like, a slayer dies, and it goes into some other girl. So it goes on to his son or whatever.
My favorite part was, like, the montage of all the Santas in the past, and it was very religiously coded. Like,
there's a lot of weird religiously coded
It started
things.
out looking like Byzantine icons, and then evolving into these, like, weird portraits, and you had, like, Disco Santa from the 60s.
And then Bill Hader he doesn't even have the beard yet.
Literally it's just a headshot of Bill Hader
looking very unhappy, just does not want to be Santa. He's like, hi, fine. There's a part where she's trying to train him to go down the chimney, and he's like, I'm claustrophobic.
It's not just that Nick is anxious to
right.
be Santa, it's that he fundamentally is not the person who's supposed to become Santa.
Yes, it's...
Because he doesn't have any of the actual magical powers that Santa has in order to do his job.
Yeah, and I noticed that pretty early on when she starts to tell who's naughty or nice, but it's kind of more of a reveal. So Noelle kind of has, like, Disney princess vibes. They literally call her Princess.
Yes.
And she has an animal sidekick, as we mentioned. So, like...
Although it has changed recently. Well, there is kind of, like, a romance element, but not really. But she's not, like, badass enough to get away with, like, not having a romance in the movie. So it's, like, a weird thing in terms
We'll get to that. There's also some elf vibes where she goes out into the real world, a.k.a. Phoenix, and is, like... walking around with her tights and this, like, costume, and everyone's like, oh, you're just, playing around, and she's, like, just doing very weird things, but she's way more competent.
I did like that, though, where the movie really excels, and I was thinking about this today, was the world building and the language.
Yeah, so I wrote down some lines. There's, like, a bunch of puns, which is, like, I'm all earmuffs, and hold your reindeer, which made me laugh.
And also, Oh My Garland was one of my favorites.
Yeah, and then the North Pole is just like this village. They have a newspaper, apparently, and they have a public school known as North Pole PS1, which really made me laugh because they only have, like, PS public school numbers in, like, big major cities and, like, this little village. Also, she has basically Heelys, but they're ice skates.
And all the roads are, like, frozen over pathways.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of world building and voice, this movie is really interesting to look at because it shows you how important it is to have, like, a cohesive set of language that you're going to use for a character.
Yeah.
That it permeates everything that they say and how they interact with other people.
Yeah. Even though they're all puns.
Well, I mean, puns are one of my favorite devices of language, so...
No, it's fun.
I'm not saying it's the most serious example of world building, but I think it's a strong example of what you can do if you really commit to the world.
And they committed, as evidenced by the product placement, which we will discuss at length in a few.
I'm so interested in the budget politics of this movie.
I know. Well, I guess we didn't look in the credits if it's, like, promotional consideration. Usually that's, like, if you use a device. So, like, at the end of every Brooklyn Nine-Nine episode where they use iPhones and stuff, so they get promotional consideration because they're basically advertising that product, but they just really mention the products, especially technology ones. So I don't think that matters.
I was thinking today while I was rewatching it is if the North Pole is in some way sponsored by Apple. Because Gabe says at one point, like, we just need to make an appointment at the Genius Bar.
I noticed that.
Why would they make an appointment at the Genius Bar if the North Pole itself was not a device of Apple? Because how else would they have data on all of these children if it was not somehow through Apple? And that's why all of the kids want iPads, because they're brainwashed so they can send more data to the North Pole. Conspiracy theories.
Noelle conspiracy theory. I just thought all the kids wanted iPads because then they can watch Disney Plus.
Yeah, but they could use other devices to watch Disney Plus. They could use, I don't know, whatever tablet, Google
But iPads are pretty popular with kids. And it's kind of still our shorthand. But yeah, it was. I like your theory.
It was a choice.
It was my choice. Nick is weirdly similar to Barry Berkman / Block from Barry, aka Bill Hader's assassin character from self-titled show. Barry is a show about a hitman who, for PTSD and depression reasons, mentally, cannot be a hitman anymore because he just doesn't want to, and it's, killing him. So he goes and finds therapy in acting, right? And then, they kind of track him down and try to get him back into things, right? So Nick in Noelle is supposed to be Santa, but is way too freaked out about being Santa. So he, runs away. Instead of to LA, he goes to Phoenix and finds therapy in yoga. It's the same thing, but it's we follow Noelle instead, who is Fuchs in season 2.
Basically, at this point, if Bill Hader's in something, I can expect to watch it either for the podcast or because Olivia tells me to, because she is completely obsessed with him.
Look, mostly because I just weirdly relate to him.
And he also mentions anxiety in literally every video that he's in.
Yeah, people are so how was SNL? And he was terrible. He's trying not to be he's well, actually, now that I'm not there anymore, I can tell you how awful it was for me personally. But no, it's the Disney people saw Barry and then we're what if we did a G-rated version, but with Santa and a Disney princess? I'm
really interested to understand more about how Noelle came about, but because it's Disney, I feel we don't have that kind of media transparency as much.
Annoying. Who even wrote it?
I don't know.
Hold on. Okay, Mark Lawrence wrote the movie. He's a filmmaker. He has made several films with Sandra Bullock and Hugh Grant. Quentin Tarantino once said he's a big fan. Literally nothing is children-related. He was a supervising producer. Oh, he has an English degree. Staff writer for Family Ties. But
it does have that really slick, adult dramedy quality to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rated G, but there's nothing, super childish about it, I feel. This is what Rotten Tomatoes consensus was. The always charming Anna Kendrick does her best, but Noelle's progressive take on timeless tale is unfortunately subdued. But, as a Christmas movie, I feel it's very successful as a fun Christmas movie.
It is, and I think it's hard to create an original Christmas movie concept at this point because there's so many classics.
And so many Hallmark movies.
Hey, they keep turning out those Hallmark movies like no tomorrow, let me tell you.
You want to talk about Polly? Because I love her.
Oh, I love Polly so much.
She is a sarcastic elf servant.
Yes.
Basically.
She has the best lines, too. When she walked in with the tray, she was I was hauling wood on my back to chop the wood to heat up the cabin and make waffles. And I feel we usually think of elves as these, short, kind of diminutive creatures, but she's such a stitch in this movie.
Yeah.
When they're oh no, what are Nick and Polly and Noelle up to? And then it just cuts to Polly sitting on a couch in the office reading a magazine.
with Men's Health.
Yes.
It was Men's Health, specifically. And then she's constantly reminding people that elves aren't necessarily small or something.
Yeah, and she gets it really, out there haircut at one point.
Oh, yeah.
And then she shows up at Jake's apartment in, like, full turquoise and gold cowboy regalia. But, okay, so Polly is also one of my favorite characters because looking back on it, like, she totally knows that Noelle is meant to be Santa from the beginning of the movie.
Oh,
because at the beginning, when Santa comes in and is like, oh, Nick, you're meant to be Santa, and then Noelle's like, but what am I supposed to do? Polly's just sitting at the table giving side-eye the entire time, and I'm like, okay, she knows.
Yeah, and she also mentions how they have a covenant that doesn't say anything about gender, but they didn't bother to, like, read it closely.
Yeah. And the head council, which is all men.
And weirdly Catholic, because they're, like, in pews and, like, kind of a ceremonial thing going on.
It felt very much like a church service. Like, there was a balcony, there were pews with a center aisle. It had the stereotypical church architecture, and then you have, like, the church elders in the front, which are all men.
Yeah.
But it was like a church/courtroom vibe. There was
yeah, that's right, because he had a gavel, which was made out of peppermint.
Gavel, and it shatters every time, and the same guy takes a bite of the peppermint. And at one point, Gabe's like, why don't you just eat the entire gavel?
Then he wouldn't have a gavel anymore. Okay. Yes. The mom, Mrs. Claus, not important.
It just wasn't a strong acting performance from her.
I also wondered how old their dad was. I think I just assumed Santa's really old, but clearly they wear a fake beard, so, like...
I couldn't tell.
Can't tell because he's not there very much.
No, he's not really a major character, but the mom is, like, weirdly unaffected by everything and, like, delivers her lines.
Concerned about her missing children.
She delivers her lines in, like, the same, like, weird, like, almost falsetto-like voice in every scene. And she's weirdly optimistic and has, like, zero character development, and her reactions to things aren't logical.
Yeah, I feel like the only part I remember is when she and Nick are, like, smiling at each other at the end because they're proud of Noelle. Like, that's all I remember.
It was when Gabe's doing, like, his technology thing, she's sitting in her same seat, and she's like, I keep telling you, Gabe, there are more than 2,500 whatever good children.
Oh, yeah, that's her only thing.
Like, her job is to sit there and just, like, say her one scripted line in each scene, and that's it.
Let's talk about Gabe, a.k.a. Billy Eichner, as their cousin who's, like, in the tech department and, like, doesn't want to be Santa. Yeah, he loves it. And doesn't want to be Santa, kind of wants to become the next, like, Jeff Bezos, whatever, Amazon.
It doesn't matter.
They apparently paid no money in $11 billion in revenue.
I'm 0% surprised, but I don't care enough about him or respect him enough to say his name correctly, so.
So, we'll come back to him with the product placement bit. The other main characters come in Phoenix, which again, they go to Phoenix because she finds the magazine that Nick must have been looking at, because apparently she just likes to read magazines from America.
Not a lot of intertrade between the North Pole and the rest of the world. They're kind of closed off.
Yeah.
So since she was a kid, her one joy was to read magazines that were oddly age inappropriate as she was reading them.
Yeah, so it's like a bunch of destinations to, like, what is it, like chill out or something, like relaxing. It's like Maui and, like, all these tropical places, and then it's Phoenix.
And she has no concept for how to pronounce the states in the United States, so instead of saying Arizona, she says Arizona.
Yeah, so they go to Phoenix, flying a sleigh, and it crashes into a shopping mall, and it beheads a fake nutcracker, and it kind of becomes a tourist attraction because there are literal reindeer there who I hope are healthy. I don't know.
I feel like there's a plot hole there where the reindeer were there for, like, a number of days and were eating nothing but crap.
And had, like, VR headgear on them.
Yeah, I was concerned about those reindeer. Also, they behead 2 giant nutcrackers.
It's better. And so she goes, because everyone's like, I haven't seen your brother. And she has one picture, and it's not the picture hanging up without the beard. It's the picture with the beard. And everyone's like, sure, lady.
Unhelpful.
She goes to a psych ward at one point, and it's probably not a good psych ward because she's able to get out the window into the sleigh.
Literally, while we were watching this movie, as soon as she's in the psych ward, I'm like, why are there windows that big? And why is the cord for the lamp that long? It was not a good psych ward.
Nope. But it's G-rated.
The windows weren't even locked.
You can't open windows even in, like, regular buildings at that height. She was on, like, the top floor. So she goes and eventually finds a private investigator who is named Jake, and I have a note, and it said, if this is a romance, I swear to God, but he's hot.
He was hot.
So...
Anna Kendrick is also hot, but anyway, moving on.
So, yeah, he tries to help her, but he doesn't, you know. He's really the first person to show that Christmas isn't great for everyone and kind of, like, burst her innocent bubble on that because he has this adorable son, but, like, they're divorced, so, and his son's a way better cook than me. And so he's, like, trying to make it up, and it's just a kind of a wholesome storyline, but there's no romance.
The kids in the movie are very cute.
Yes.
Because there's Alex, who's this kind of very precocious kid dealing with this messy family situation. And he, like, analyzes piece by piece the breakfast.
Yeah, and why it's cooked badly.
And explains, like, why the burgers aren't cooked well. And I love at the end of the movie where she's going to deliver the presents, and they're like, oh, Alex is into music this year, so we're going to get him a drum set and get wireless headphones for his dad. Which I like because it shows that, like, at that age, your interests are so frequently changing. Michelle, the little deaf girl, is my favorite character.
Oh, yeah. At the homeless shelter that she visits and discovers that not everyone, you know, has a great Christmas too. And she meets the deaf. And it's also great how they treat sign language as language, because part of the thing about Santa is that he has the ability of, one of his magic powers is that he can talk in any language or speak any language. And so they mentioned this in the beginning because she's like, how do you know German? And Nick was like, well, I use Google Translate because Gabe showed me how. One of the weird mentions of major corporations.
What happened was Nick is like, what if I wake a kid up and I don't speak his language? Yeah. She was like, you'll be fine. Like, Santa's able to speak every language. And then she's like, you were able to speak German at one time. And he's like, because I used Google Translate.
Yeah. Because Gabe showed me. So she's talking, and she starts to be able to understand and sign back this girl without her mom translating, which was kind of one of the big hints at the beginning, or the middle. And it was just a sweet moment because it validates. Yeah. And they actually showed it. Yeah. You can actually see it in the frame, because I watched, like, The Shape of Water. Sometimes the way they did the sign language in that movie was very inauthentic to me because it wasn't always in frame. And the guy kept repeating back what she was saying. And I like that they would show the sign language and then drop what they were saying to subtitles. Yeah. Which reminded me of in Deaf West Spring Awakening. During certain moments, they would only do sign language and then have subtitles essentially written on chalkboards or signs that would be used on stage. Or production design. Best Broadway production ever. Yes. The only Broadway bootleg that Olivia will watch. This is true. The shopping mall lady, the travel lady. Helen, who gets to go on a Hawaiian vacation with the Petco dude. Oh, that was who it was. Okay. When there's the postcards on her sleigh. Yeah, I didn't know who it was. And thank yous. It was her and the Petco dude. Because in the beginning of the movie, she's like, I'd really like to go to Hawaii. And he's like, oh, I'd like to go too. So they end up going together and having a little romance. Yeah, she's very sarcastic. They assume Noelle and the sleigh business is because of her, because travel related and holidays. So she's like, good, I can make some money off this and go to Hawaii. And then we have the carolers, which are my favorite kind of running gag, where it's like this little group of carolers are singing thematically appropriate music sometimes all over the place in the North Pole every time they cut back to the North Pole.
I enjoyed that.
The ending made me laugh, because you thought it was just like background music, but no, it's them.
They like start at the beginning of the church/courthouse, and then they pan back, and it's just the carolers sitting down singing sadly.
They're just having a good time. Yeah, I would be one of them. Let's be honest.
Probably. A very gender-neutral choral outfit.
I would be an alto, too.
Okay, so now that we've discussed all of the characters and Olivia's vocal range, what does Noelle add to the canon of Christmas movies? Because I think there is a canon of Christmas movies, and there's a very specific aesthetic when you're going to make a Christmas movie in terms of certain ideals and certain ideas that tend to get recycled in these. And it's hard to create something that's original and continue to add on to the mythology that we have in specifically white Christian American culture around Christmas and make it interesting and compelling for audiences.
Definitely one of the aspects that's very interesting is how I think a lot of Christmas movies have this kind of like believe in Santa big moment, right? Whereas I think this movie, it's like a urban fantasy movie. Or not an urban fantasy movie, like a modern fantasy movie. It's like, this is a thing that happens, this is how it works. There's no like real question about whether Santa exists. It's just like, how does Santa, the magical entity, operate?
And I think there's two main categories of Christmas movies. There's Christmas movies where Santa is real and does exist, and looking at the world from that vantage point. And then there's the Christmas movies where it's just our world, where Santa is a part of Christmas, but it focuses on the real world dynamics of Christmas.
Yeah.
So like Home Alone would fall into that category, and then Elf would fall into the first category.
Right. I can think of several movies, I think Elf and the Polar Express particularly, that just end as like, you must believe in Santa. And maybe Santa Claus a little bit. And then along with that, kind of the gender politics of that, obviously, why does Santa have to be a man? Because at the end, when she's going around delivering the presents, and she's afraid that everyone's going to see her, and is like, you're not Santa because you're a girl. And then some people do say that. She also ends up in a Jewish house, which is funny. They're all going to see her come down, and they're eating Chinese food.
Jewish apartment on the Upper West Side in New York City.
Comes down the chimney, and they're like, we're Jewish, like, get out of here.
But the best part of the joke, though, is they're all in the living room watching TV eating Chinese food.
Yeah, and then until I think she goes to Michelle, calls her Santa, and then the suit fits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, names matter and aren't gendered.
And I think it's interesting, too, because she first goes to France, where it's clearly a more upper-class house in France, because there's macarons, there's fresh vegetables left out for Santa, as opposed to people who do need to believe in magic, and they're more open and receptive to it, which is maybe a little oversimplified class divide in the movie, but I do think it was impactful and emotional on some level.
Yeah. Talked about how it's one of the few Christmas movies not involving romance, or for that matter, like, children.
Yes, because, I mean, there are kids in it who play a vital role, but really it's about the adult world of the North Pole.
Yeah, and, like, there's just a very real, like, sibling dynamic there. The part where she finds them in the yoga studio and they're, like, really happy to see each other, also surprised, but they're, like, basically, like, play fighting. Like, I don't know how else to explain it.
And then also so everyone calls her Noelle except for him once she finds him again, and then he switches over to Ellie, which is a really cute thing.
Yeah.
But she insists on calling him Santa in the North Pole in the beginning, and Gabe is like, I'm not calling him Santa.
She's like, oh, everyone does. And he's, you call yourself Santa? And he's like, no, I don't. Like, no. Oh, and he has that, remember when they were, like, whisper talking about him, and he has that facial expression? Just, like, peeking up. Yeah.
Because there were a lot of funny and weird things that happened in this movie.
Yeah, but first of, one of them is the product placement. And one thing you noticed, like, the first time was Santa at the very beginning, it's when they're children, right? And he's, like, creeping up on the tree, and the floor he's walking on is tile with Mickey Mouse ears.
When we were first watching the movie, I noticed this right away. And Olivia was like, wait, I didn't catch that. Can you go back? So it took me a few times to rewind the movie. But it was like, look at the floor, look at the floor. And it was these blue Mickey Mouse-shaped ears embedded into the tile.
I was like, did they film this at a Disney resort? Like, what? Like, why? It doesn't make sense. Why is the North Pole colonized by Disney and also apparently Apple?
Like, they just had to get that visual product placement in there.
It's, like, not related to anything. And then Gabe killed me with the part where he was talking about how the presents would be delivered. Because A, they didn't have the sleigh, B, it's inefficient. And he says, I don't know, they're just saying, like, they'll drone or Amazon Prime it.
He's like, there's something called Amazon Prime. He also wants to take an ice floe and put a GPS coordinates on it.
I was like, yeah, that will melt. And, like, I didn't expect them to mention Amazon that directly. And they did.
I didn't expect them to mention Apple.
It's far. And Google Translate. They've name-checked the biggest other corporations.
It's like a buddy comedy, but just between massive South corporations.
Yeah, and the magazines. And also, related to this, is perhaps the best part of the whole movie, in which they discover how Gabe is going to determine who is naughty or nice. Because normally, apparently, if you look at a picture and you're Santa, you can tell. Which is kind of weird to me.
Or if you look at a person, you can tell if they're naughty or nice. Right.
You can just tell, and it's just one or the other, apparently. And so they do this weird Amazon Meets the Good Place thing, where he's describing how he calculates this. It's called fa-la-la. Forensic Algorithm Lateral Analysis Latent Altruism. Which I'm not even sure makes sense, because, like, why is the altruism latent? Does it mean they'll act on it later?
They just sat in a room for an hour, and we're like, okay, we need to make something fit into a fa-la-la. It has to make complete sense. It just has to sound smart.
It just has to make people laugh because of algorithms. So I think it's funny, because clearly Disney Plus is using an algorithm to show you the movie.
I mean, they are using an algorithm, but there's also so little on Disney Plus that they don't really need an algorithm.
Right, but they're like, they also participate in this.
Yes.
We already talked about the iPad thing.
Because literally every kid wants an iPad, and it's a running joke.
It's a running joke, and I didn't find it funny after. The first time I was like, what, really? And then I didn't find it funny after that. Especially at the end where they're like, ha-ha, everyone wants an iPad.
The first time it was funny was when Michelle was talking about wanting a job for her mom, and then her mom was like, this is awkward, and walking away, and Michelle signed and an iPad.
So, apparently Frosty's real.
Oh, yeah, so Noelle ends up in therapy at one point in the psych ward.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't help.
She was like, ha ha, you must think I'm crazy. And the therapist is like, no, I have clients who have all sorts of identities. She's like, one of my clients believes that they're the Tooth Fairy. And Noelle's like, well, that's ridiculous. And another one believes that they're Mother Nature. And she's like, And she's like, and then one of my clients believes that he's Frosty the Snowman. And Noelle was just like, Frosty's here?
Yeah. There's all the, like, Phoenix Santas, too, who are always wearing shorts. Also, she doesn't know how to use sunblock.
Oh, yeah, she eats the sunblock.
and then puts, like, way too much.
Santa, she's like, it's a privilege to wear that suit.
Yeah. And then everyone thinks her suit is fake. Or the actual Santa suit cheap.
And then she goes to the costume store to get the elf costume, and she's like, I hate this. Because, like, you literally look like that every day.
And then one time she also takes a drink off like the like server's platter outside, takes a sip, doesn't understand that it's alcohol, and then like spits it out and put it back down.
She's like, there's something wrong with this drink.
They only have hot chocolate at the North Pole.
Yeah.
Silent meditation.
In the botanical garden in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, they went to a botanical garden in the middle of the desert to meditate, because that's where Nick went. And he couldn't talk to her, and she just interrupts this whole silent meditation thing. He holds up a sign.
Where there's like 5 people at the silent meditation.
Because it's like Christmas. And yeah, yoga pants is their clue, because yoga pants are fairly festive, and also yoga is a place where you can relax. Mm-hmm. So that's how they found him. And also he's doing a Christmas-themed yoga. So, like, downward-facing reindeer. And at the end, he gets to teach yoga at the North Pole. He also, like, wears a bandana during most of that.
For no reason.
Just vaguely hippie.
So we did talk about the class dynamics. I think the movie does have a heart. It's more slick than a lot of the Christmas movies that I enjoy.
And I think it's more realistic. It's not just like Christmas is great, but it's like Christmas actually isn't great for everyone. Yeah. And like that's ultimately what she learns too.
Because they don't have homelessness or other issues.
Apparently.
So she has no concept of that. And she's like, this is terrible. People don't have places to live or food.
Yeah, and just there's also, like, the theme of, like, parental expectations as well as the gendered aspects of it.
Yeah.
And how, like, Nick was all like, oh, well, your whole life they didn't treat you this way. Like, it was all about one thing.
And then on her side, she always wanted to be able to do more and kind of got pushed down into this useless role of making Christmas cards.
She went to college, though. She majored in calligraphy and minored in popcorn strings. Also, they don't have policemen at the North Pole, which is weird. Or interesting, I should say. Oh, they also fist bump at the end, right? Namastasis. Okay. Wait, is that it?
I think that's it for Noelle. Do you have anything else to say about it?
I enjoyed it. Would watch with parents.
I wouldn't watch with my family, but I generally don't watch things with them, so...
Yeah. It's like Elf, but I think it has things to say. I think it's incredibly weird, but
it leans into the weirdness, which I think is important.
Yeah, well, I meant weird in the weird product placement aspect of it, which is like unnecessarily strange. Yay. So now we're going to talk about like our favorite Christmas movies now and as a kid. I don't know, we have a list. I think some of our like famous old ones aren't even on this list because we just aren't into them. Like It's a Wonderful Life.
I mean, I've never seen it all the way through.
Me neither. And I've never seen Miracle on 34th Street.
I've seen parts of that.
What about Christmas Story?
Okay, so here's the thing about Christmas Story. My cousin Ryan is obsessed with Christmas Story, and we either go to his house or his sister's house, who's my godmother, every year for Christmas Eve. And they play Christmas Story 24 hours, starting at 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve on one of the channels. So while we're there, inevitably, it gets put on. So I've only seen it in a situation where it's on a loop. So I don't actually know what the beginning of the movie is and what the end of the movie is. I only know, like, specific scenes, but I don't know what order they appear in the movie.
Yeah, I have seen it once.
Also, my cousin has the leg lamp.
I remember watching that. That was kind of one of the parts where I was like, is this a kid's movie? I don't know. It's very, like, interesting. Just kind of gender-y wise.
I feel like it's more of an adult movie.
I think so. Like, okay, the other time I've seen a Christmas Story was the not well, like, watched or received live musical version, where Maya Rudolph was the mom and Matthew Broderick was like the narrator, like him as a kid. And I guess it was adapted from the Broadway version, which most people didn't know, and that's why everyone was confused. Like, because it's like super long. It's way too long. There's a song that I had heard before. So apparently it takes place in Indiana, which I didn't realize. And there's a song called Somewhere Hovering Over Indiana, which is, I definitely heard children sing before. I've also seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation once. So a lot of the major ones for me are actually cartoons. Definitely one of them is Mickey's Christmas Carol. Like, we like taped a bunch of the Christmas specials. And so they had like all the old commercials and we would like fast forward through them because I wanted VHS tapes. Like my mom had taped them one year. And we just would watch them. So I watched Mickey's Christmas Carol a lot. And that's like my basis for the Christmas Carol. Like whenever I think about it, I think about that version. And I think that was how I got introduced to, like, a lot of the, like, Mickey characters. Like, Scrooge isn't it Scrooge McDuck, anyway?
I think so. I saw it, and this is going to make me sound really old, probably 20 years ago, when I was under 5, is when I saw a lot of the cartoon ones, and then never watched them again.
Yeah, see, we watch them, like, every year. They're on. Mom's like, oh, we gotta watch the Winnie the Pooh Christmas special. They released one on DVD, which I'm sure is on Disney Plus. It's like Merrily something Christmas Winnie the Pooh and Christmas 2. I don't know, something. My brother, quote, gave that to me when he was born. Like, I don't know, I gave him a Winnie the Pooh thing when he was born, like a little stuffed animal, and he, quote, gave me the DVD. It was one of the first DVDs I had. But that also included a New Year's special, and so there's a part where they sing Auld Lang Syne, and that was my favorite, because that introduced me to that song. And, I don't know, I remember that one a lot. Frosty, we watch every year. I've seen Frosty 2, like, quite a few times, too, which is weird.
I watched the original Frosty growing up. It wasn't my favorite. And I haven't watched it in a very long time.
I haven't seen it in several years. Frosty 2 is where he, like, melts at one point. It's kind of... He also looks very different.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen Frosty 2.
Okay. The Santa Claus is Coming to Town. That's the one with the song of... It's, like, Santa growing up. It's, like, claymation. And he's, like, Kris Kringle, and he has, like, red hair. And he's, like, at one point teaches a penguin to walk, and they sing Put One Foot in Front of the Other.
I have not seen this.
This is formative to me. Because specifically that part. I don't know why. And then there's The Year Without a Santa Claus, which is the somewhat scary one, where, like, Santas get sick or something, and there's the heat miser and the cold miser, and they have a scary song.
I've not seen that either.
Charlie Brown? You have this on your list, too.
Yes, I feel like I have more attachment to Charlie Brown as a franchise than you do.
I think I first saw it, like, in school. Because it's, like, Christmas and New Year's is the one after it. And they usually play them together.
Yeah, I've only seen the Christmas one. I maybe have seen the New Year's one.
So what I remember about this mostly is that's how I learned what War and Peace was, that it was a giant, long book. Because he gets assigned to read it over the winter break, and that's the joke.
I love it because, so I actually learned how to play the opening song where they're all ice skating on violin one year when I used to play violin. And I love the scene where Charlie Brown's trying to direct everyone at, like, the Christmas special thing, and they just all ignore him and dance like they want to. And then I love Snoopy, who, like, decorates his house.
Yeah.
And he wins first place, and then him and Linus get the tree. And all they can afford
is the small tree. I remember that.
Small, sad tree with the red bulb. And then they all hold hands and sing carols, and it becomes a big, fancy Christmas tree.
Yeah, I remember that.
And there's also the whole monologue that Linus gives about religion in it. That almost got cut from it.
That's maybe why it felt religious to me.
Yeah.
Because as I was a kid, I was like, I don't understand this, and, like, I felt excluded from it. So, the other one is, there's The Grinch. The animated Grinch. I was afraid, like, I thought the Jim Carrey one looked scary, and I didn't want to watch it. And my mom bought the new one, the, like, 3D animated Benedict Cumberbatch one.
Oh, no.
We haven't watched it yet, but I think we're going to watch it.
Please keep me posted on that.
She bought it because that's how much we love the Grinch.
I only like the animated version, and I also saw the Grinch on Broadway.
Wait, there's a Grinch, like, Broadway play?
Yeah.
It's not long. That's the thing. Like, they make it feature length, but it doesn't need to be.
It was a Broadway musical at one point, and I did see it with my family when I was growing up. And they sold green apple cotton candy. What I most remember from that. But yeah, I liked the animated version because it was just like one of those like twee, funny, adultish animated comedy Christmas things.
And the song is good.
Yes. And also like the fact that his heart grows 3 sizes. Because I've been making the joke that my heart is a black hole since I was a small child. So I always thought that was funny and related to the character where like he learns to have feelings.
Have you heard the Straight No Chaser version of the song?
No, but I
like that one. Anyway, the other one is Rudolph, another Rankin Bass claymation.
Which I love and is one of my favorites.
I think I've seen it many, many times. I don't think it's my favorite.
I think it's my favorite in a way because it's definitely the one I have like the most good memories of. And just, like, there's something about it that feels so homey in a way. Like, I love that it opens with the snowman, Jack Frost, kind of, like, walking around and, like, in the forest. And there's such like, a quaint, like, quirky quality. Yeah. And also it's the source of one of my favorite memes. I
was just thinking about that.
About, like, otherness is, isn't welcomed unless it can be exploited for capitalism.
Wait, I thought it was the Hermes dentist one. Why weren't you at elf practice? That one. That's a different meme. No, isn't there like a really, really long analysis of Rudolph and like what it means?
Wait, I'm Googling Rudolph capitalism meme. Oh yeah, deviation from the norm will be punished unless it is exploitable.
Just a picture of Rudolph. Okay, that's not what I thought I was thinking.
Oh, there's a more expanded one. It says, deviation from cultural hegemony will be met with oppression and ostracization unless it can be exploited by the powerful for economic gain or social capital.
No, I'm thinking of the why weren't you at elf practice? Why? Oh, also Clarice's. I love how you can tell she's a female reindeer.
They feminized her as a reindeer.
Oh my gosh. I never understood the Abominable Snowman either.
I love the Abominable Snowman. And also when they go to the island of misfit toys. And there's just something so wonderful about that movie where I never really fit in as a kid anywhere in any social situation. And you had these 2 quirky characters who didn't fit in and got treated terribly by everyone in their family and communities. And I really identified with that. And the fact that you had these 2 outcasts, the one reindeer with the weird nose, wasn't accepted by his family, and then the elf who couldn't do his job because he wanted to be a dentist.
He wants to be a dentist.
And he gets ostracized for that. And his character is very much coded as queer if you watch it.
That's another thing I have read about this movie. Yeah.
So you have these 2 essentially queer characters who form a friendship and a found family and find more found family on the island of misfit toys and band together to save Christmas. And it is the most inspiring thing.
Rudolph is gay culture confirmed. So, the ones that I also have... Oh, well, let's just talk about The Muppet Christmas Carol, which...
I watched it today.
I made Tay watch today because she has Disney+. Which, I know I must have seen this when I was younger because my mom, like, loves The Muppets and has always loved The Muppets. But mostly I knew Christmas Carol from the Mickey special. But I know we read a play of The Christmas Carol in 7th grade and then we watched this movie of it. And I was like, this is the best thing. Because I think this is when I started to really get into meta stuff, and that's just, like, what the Muppets are.
And I will say I don't like The Christmas Carol as a story, because I feel like Charles Dickens intended one thing with the story, and it has become bastardized in American culture to mean something else, where I just don't care about humanizing this straight white old dude who exploits everyone, and after 2 hours of reckoning with his past, decides he's going to treat everyone more fairly, because I feel like in 2019, we should know that is complete BS by this point.
Yeah, well, what does he do to change, you know? So what did you think of it?
Considering I don't really like the actual story, but Grover and Rizzo were my favorite parts because they just add something so fun to it.
That's what's so good about it.
It is.
They comment on the story.
And there's also just so much adult humor in it, like when Rizzo gets frozen in the block of ice and he smashes it on the table. And he's like, well, I guess I should thank you for that. When he's going to, like, jump off the second floor, and I hope my little body can take the fall. He's also running around being chased by, like, either children or something's going on when they go to Christmas Pass.
Yeah,
and he's like, I'm from New Jersey. And then when Rizzo's like, is this kid appropriate? And then Grover's just like, it's culture. Something I noticed about the movie that I thought was interesting was because it takes place in 19th century England, and this is such a niche thing that I think only I would notice, but the Ghost of Christmas Past seemed to be very closely modeled after post-mortem child photography, where it was common practice in England at the time because photography was a new technology and people were thinking of ways to use it, and what happened was infant mortality was really high, and people would want a way to remember their children after they died, and as it became more accessible, more and more families were able to do this, where if they had a child that died, they would dress it up in a fancy white outfit, put it in a cradle, and take a picture of it in order to memorialize the body. So the ghost really reminded me of that. The ghost had that, like, childlike, preserved face, and then the white flowy outfit, and the fact that she was the ghost of Christmas Past.
Ooh. I don't know if they knew that, but yay. I love Elf, which is something I don't think I saw until I was older, like maybe 10, but like my family quickly like got into it.
I'm not an Elf fan because I don't like Will Ferrell except in Step Brothers.
I just enjoy this movie. This movie does not understand how publishing works.
Yeah.
It doesn't. They're like, the like executives are looking at this one children's book and they're like pitching ideas, and I'm like, this is not how it works, guys.
It's not.
So that always makes me laugh. I think I learned what lingerie was from this movie. I did not understand that joke. I don't know. I enjoyed the kind of like just out of the loop, you know, innocent person shows up in New York City and gets like demolished. I just enjoy the setting. Also, my friends and I, freshman year, would always reference the "Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad" from the Narwhal. So that's what I have to say about Elf. I have the Santa Claus on here. I know we had like Santa Claus 2 for some reason when I was a kid, and like I didn't want to watch it for some reason, probably because my mom wanted to, and I was rebellious. No. I didn't see the first one till like a lot later, which is quite different, I think. Third one, I also saw the third one. I might have seen that one first, where Martin Short is Jack Frost and kind of shakes things up. And then they have all the other like Christmas deities or like holiday deities, but that one's also very different.
I think I've only seen the first one, and I liked it, but I also have complicated feelings about Tim Allen. So
yeah.
All right, talk about Polar Express because I like that one.
You like this one? I have a weird relationship with Polar Express. It came out when I was younger, so the first time I saw it, I think it was the entire school with like they projected it in like our cafeteria / main building, but they got rid of all the tables, so like we were like we got like sleeping bags, and we all watched the Polar Express, and I didn't know it was animated. I thought they were real people. Okay, admittedly it was a projection. I was like really far away. I didn't know.
All of their eyes are so dead looking though.
No. Remember when we thought that was going to be like the new thing?
Oh yeah. So you didn't read the book first?
No. Okay. I was too old for that, I think. Like I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade.
I feel like that changes your relationship to Polar Express if you read the book as a small child and then you were really excited for the movie to come out and then your family hated it but you loved it. My experience.
Yeah, I had no idea. Well, I've seen it more times after that. Realized it was animated. I did.
I didn't realize it was animated.
Look.
Like it tracks. Like, I'm not surprised.
And then I had seen it multiple times We watched it in 8th grade for some reason because it was like one of those days before the break where we just had to do something. And I just remember like doing that thing where with your friends or people you want to be friends with, you just like make sarcastic comments. So that was happening. But there's just weird physics in this movie. Like, it doesn't make sense. Also, the record thing is creepy. It's like clearly made for 3D. There are some movies that clearly were made for 3D, and it was one of them. And like, there's a part where they're like crossing a very narrow like tightrope thing, and I'm like, why?
I like the whole like you'll only hear the bells if you believe thing. Like, and I think that's because I read the book and I like the story.
Like, at that point, I was like, oh, I've seen, it's like Elf all over it. Like, I've seen this kind of believe in Santa thing multiple times.
Yeah. I mean, my heart's a black hole, but I am sentimental trash in some way.
Only at Christmas. No.
So now I'm going to talk about my favorites, and then I'm going to go off about Hallmark.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, my favorite Christmas movie is Home Alone. And I think it's, again, like, where I've just always had a really complicated relationship to my family. Where, like, I've often wished that Home Alone would happen to me. As recently as, like, last week.
Just believe. You're not a kid, though. Like, that, I don't know.
I mean, growing up, I wanted it to happen to me, too. But I think it's it's a movie that had, like, all of the things that make me happy in terms of a Christmas movie growing up, where it had these, like, high-stakes shenanigans with all the ways that he injures the burglars in the movie. It has, like, the dark comedy aspect of it, where it's, like, this kid is left to his own devices for the weekend. It has interesting and messy family dynamics where this kid doesn't really feel wanted and feels like his family doesn't notice him. And then through some mishap where the neighbor comes over and he gets counted as Kevin, so they think he's in the van, but he's not in the van, I found interesting. And I also like that it had, like, that feel-good aspect with the neighbor that everyone thinks is scary. He ends up saving him at the end. And then when he, like, reconnects with his son, it just brings me to tears every time.
Yeah, I watched this once at my friend's house during, like, a sleepover when we were in, like, elementary school.
I've seen it many times.
I enjoyed it. I haven't really I forgot it's, like, a Christmas thing. I don't know. Are the other ones Christmas related? See,
Yeah.
That's my thing. He gets lost more than once. Like, they made sequels. This poor child.
Well, no, what happened is, okay, so there's 4 Home Alone movies. It's only the same kid in the first 2.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 are different. And I've seen parts of the second one. Donald Trump's in the second one.
Yeah, I know that.
And then I haven't seen the third or the fourth. But I feel like the first is just such a classic.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just so many, like, fun, referenceable, like, moments in it. And even my family quotes lines that people say at Kevin in the movie at me. Mm-hmm. So my family has confirmed my emotional attachment to him as a character. Like, my uncle will always, like, turn to me and be like, "Look what you did, you little jerk," which is a line from the movie that the older brother says to Kevin.
Is this where your filthy animal comes from? Yes. Okay.
That is the movie. Because he watches this, like, old gangster movie, and then he plays it for the pizza guy. And I think the movie overall has just this really, like, classic Christmas, like, 1990s aesthetic to it that I find really endearing in movies. And I like to return to over and over again. But most of the Christmas media that I watch is Hallmark. I am Hallmark trash. I have confirmed that multiple family members have bought me the official Hallmark movie watching merchandise that they finally put out this year after people have been selling it on Etsy and other sites for years. I bought a shirt last weekend that says my Christmas wish is to star in a Hallmark movie, which I'm not straight enough to be a Hallmark movie.
Yeah, that's my thing with every time I've just, because my mom watches them, so they're, like, perpetually on in the background, and I just get lost into which one is which, because they're very similar.
Oh, you see, I actually am very good at distinguishing them to the point where, like, I know the titles and can differentiate the titles.
Which is impressive, because all of them contain the word Christmas.
And I will say my main issue with Hallmark, and this maybe, it's an issue, but also, like, something that draws me towards it, is that, like, every actress they have is a total 10, and then every actor is, like, a 5. Like, I'm not watching these movies for the plot.
I don't know, they're not my type.
I mean, they're just pretty. They're easy to watch. They're like, they all have perfectly white teeth. They're all really thin.
Small Christmas towns.
Oh yeah, so Hallmark as a brand reinforces the small town is better than living in the big city. Your roots are always more important than your ambition. Family is always important. That kind of thing. But I do have my favorites, and I tend to be drawn to the quirkier.
I need give me your, like, one sentence pitch on these. Cram everything into the weirdest sentence possible, please. Okay. I'm excited.
So Crown for Christmas is a movie where a struggling artist who can't cover her rent for her and her 2 siblings living in New York City gets convinced to be a governess for the 10-year-old daughter of a king in a sovereign nation.
I've seen this.
I am total trash for the royal Christmas movies where, like, someone gets hired to be a governess and then the king falls for them and then, like, they totally get together and there's, like, a rivalry of, like, another woman who just wants the crown, and it's just really appealing to me.
I love the mental gymnastics they do to make, like, a fake small country with a royal family.
Me too. It's always, like, in France, but they have British accents. In that vein, I also like A Royal Christmas, which is the Lacey Chabert movie where she is a tailor in Philadelphia who finds out that she's actually dating the heir to the throne of a small sovereign nation. Another one! There's so many. There's also the ice skating one where they go to a small sovereign nation as 2 sisters who are ice skaters. And they perform in an ice skating competition there. And then one of them ends up staying there, and the other one ends up opening up an ice skating training rink in New Jersey.
Like, what's up with these small sovereign nations? Where did they come up? Like, what does this mean for international politics?
I mean, I don't think anyone cares. I think it's just people are thirsty for, like, royal romances, and they know that.
What? Then there's also, like, the Netflix ones, too, right?
Oh, yeah, I haven't watched those because I'm so used to the aesthetic of Hallmark Christmas movies that I find it really jarring to watch Christmas movies produced by other networks because they don't have the same production quality. Where the thing with Hallmark movies is that there's never really, like, empty silence in them. There's always some kind of Christmas music playing in the background. I also love Christmas with Holly, which is about it's like 3 men and a baby, but at Christmas and set in a small coastal town. So it's 3 brothers who are taking care of their niece after her mom dies, and then he falls in love with a woman who is visiting the town, and they all end up living together.
All right.
And then 9 Lives of Christmas, which is also one of my favorites, is about a ambitious veterinary student who falls in love with a firefighter who's afraid of commitment after they meet in a supermarket in the cat food aisle because she's not allowed to have a cat in her apartment but has one anyway, and he kind of gets adopted by a cat that he rescues from a dog in the beginning of the movie.
Wait, he gets adopted by a cat?
Yeah, like, the cat chooses him, where, like, he rescues the cat, then the cat, like, comes into his house and won't leave, and he's like, you can stay. And it's so great because it has, like, really strong friendship dynamics, like, someone who actually cares about going to school and becoming a vet, house flipping, firefighters. And it's really quirky, and I also like it because the actress who plays in that movie isn't like one of the stereotypical, like, size 0 or 2 actresses. She's actually really socially awkward, which is interesting. And then I also like the same actor in that one is in A Gift to Remember, which is the one about the bookseller who hits him with her bike. And he gets amnesia, and he has a dog that's really cute, so, like, she has to make sure that he gets his dog back. And then I also like A Godwin Christmas, which is on Hallmark Movies and Mysteries, so it's not so much a rom-com, it's more like a dramedy. And it's the same actress as Nine Lives of Christmas. And it is about an antique auction clerk from St. Louis, Missouri, who is engaged suddenly to her fiancé, who's a lawyer, but doesn't really have time for her anymore. And she visits her aunt, who writes books in Nantucket, and then goes to Martha's Vineyard to go antiquing, and ends up running into a inn owner and gets stuck on the island, and they fall in love. And it's one of the ones that's based off of a true story, and I like that one because I went to Martha's Vineyard about a little more than a year ago, and I really liked it because I tend to like anything that's by water or by the ocean, because I really like the vibe of like that, and just the culture and them in general, and how it feels to be close to large bodies of water is something I enjoy. So I like seeing a lot of the places that I had seen when I went there in the movie. Except they got the carousel wrong, but that's okay, because I like carousels.
Okay.
And there's also a carousel in The Sweetest Christmas. So The Sweetest Christmas is about a woman who's struggling to have a career as a baker. So she enters into this nationally acclaimed gingerbread contest that just happens to take place in her small Georgia town. And she enters the contest, and she's really insecure about it. And at the same time, she ends up reconnecting with her high school sweetheart, who now runs his dad's restaurant and has a son in town. And she ends up baking a carousel out of gingerbread in order to try to win him over after they keep fighting and breaking up. So those are some of my favorite Hallmark movies, but I do struggle with the fact that they are very white and very limited in terms of their diversity, and I just really want a sapphic Christmas Hallmark movie more than anything in the world, and I know
that would be, like, that would just work so well, I feel like.
I mean, I'm trying to, like...
never do it.
Well, I know, because their demographic their main demographic just, like...
They need to do, like, a psych one, too, where it's like, psych, the two girls fall in love.
I mean, I have ideas for sapphic...
Hallmark, call her.
Hallmark Christmas movies. I really want to write a polyamorous sapphic Christmas romance novel called Three French Hens. About three women who go to baking school in Paris around Christmas time. And I've been encouraged by people to do this, but that's why I love Hallmark so much, and why. And I also do a lot of crafting around Christmas, so it's just nice to have something mindless on in the background while knitting or crocheting.
That's also what my mom does. Okay. The last question.
So to end our Christmas-themed episode of Culture Popped Open, I pose probably the most important question of all.
Forget about Die Hard. Forget about Die Hard, more importantly.
I don't watch those movies.
I've seen Die Hard once, but the Brooklyn Nine-Nine episode where they're in a hospital is where they kind of redo Die Hard. Is the Christmas episode. That one's my favorite.
Okay, so important question time. Is Rent a Christmas movie?
Yes, but the play is better, and I own the DVD of the filmed, like, Broadway final cast, because it makes so much more sense for several reasons. One, Christmas Bells is in it, and that's a really fun song that I understand why they couldn't do on film, but there are at one point, like, 6 different songs happening at the same time, and they all, like, musically go together, so.
It's so good.
And there's, like, some subtle social commentary in there, you know, and obviously Today for You and Angel Santa, and just the beginning, like, I always miss it, because that's the other thing about the movie is they don't sing it. It's December 24th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah.
I would always try to play that, especially when we were in New York, because then we're actually on Eastern Time. So my family just didn't get it. I don't understand.
And the plot of Rent is also bookended by Christmas.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And the entire first act is Christmas related, so. And then they go through a year in the second act.
The second act is weird. So I guess Rent is the queer Christmas movie that we have.
The queer found family Jewish Christmas movie.
So I guess La Vie Boheme can be counted as a Christmas song.
I mean, isn't there a part where they sing? Yeah, dear. No, that song I cannot hear. Little Town of Bethlehem, I can't hear it without thinking of that song. Because it's this little town of Bethlehem. We raise our glass, you bet your ass to. Yeah. And
then I also think, like, my favorite part in Christmas Bells is the squeegee guy that's going Honest Living.
Honest Living. They got him out of the TV production, come on.
It didn't put that in the TV one. I was so sad. I was waiting for that, and it didn't happen.
Yeah. I like the policemen who we're dreaming of a white, bright Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Yay. That's another episode.
Oh, we did it. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Culture Pops Open. We hope you enjoyed our special holiday theme special. In this season of giving, we encourage you to support our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/culturepopsopen. We also encourage you to check out our social media if you want to follow up on what we're doing. You can find Tay on Twitter at TayberryJelly and on Instagram at TayberryJelly. And you can find Olivia on Instagram at books_bigideas and on Twitter at booksandbigideas. You can keep up with the podcast on social media at Culture Pops Open on Instagram and CPO_podcast on Twitter. And we hope that you'll continue to support Culture Pops Open in the new year and the new decade.